Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the channel. This should be your very first time being here, as this is my very first YouTube video that I've ever uploaded. Like a lot of people, I've always wondered about how to get into doing content on YouTube. I've watched YouTube for years. I've never uploaded anything into it. So I watched a couple of videos about how the process works, how to set up your own channel. It's really not that difficult. There's a lot of good content that's out there. So I checked out a couple of them and getting everything started and doing this up as my very first video. As this being your first time, the name of the channel is Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. I'm Jesse, of course, Jesse Carter, born in the great state of Texas. I'm 41 years old, was born in 1975, and I currently live in Virginia with my wife Hillary and our cat Dallas. Now the show is, you're wondering probably, occupational awareness. Well, what does that mean? Well, occupation being the type of industry that we're involved in, awareness is knowing your situations and your surroundings. Put the two words together, occupational awareness, that's being aware of your certain occupation. One of the things that I want to do with this channel, there's two main goals that I have. First and foremost, number one, entertainment. With the COVID pandemic that we have going on, the lockdown, it keeps us at home a lot more than normal. Social distancing, we're away from our friends, away from family. So a lot of times, as I notice with myself, we turn to social media and streaming more than we ever have. If you look at any of the statistics in any of the media devices, YouTube, what else is there? Daily Motion, Netflix, Twitch, Stream, any of the gaming industries, there's just been a phenomenal increase in viewers because people are at home doing a lot more of that. And there has been a huge influx of YouTube channels and videos, and yeah, I'm a part of that now. And I'm hoping that you, the viewer, will take your time, enjoy the content that I'm going to be producing, and enjoy what I'm putting out. So what are we actually talking about in this video? Why exactly are you here? Well, there's going to be three occupations that I'm going to be focusing on that I've been involved in, and I would like for you, the viewer, to know about those occupations. Those three are going to involve my experiences with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, which is the entity that manages the state prisons across the state of Texas, where I worked as a corrections officer. My time spent in the United States Marine Corps, where I honorably discharged as a corporal, and my time with the U.S. Coast Guard, which I'm still currently involved in as a bosun's mate. I want to start the video off with Texas Department of Criminal Justice, which I'm going to try to avoid the use of acronyms. Acronyms are prevalent throughout any and every industry. Some of them are a little bit self-explanatory. Texas Department of Criminal Justice, TDCJ. Some not so. We're not really going to get into those. So for all purposes, we're going to start with TDCJ, and I'd like to talk about the hiring process, how I got involved in it, what the academy was like, how I got to the unit, experiences at the unit, experiences that ultimately led to my resignation and moving on into the next industry. I'm going to do the best that I can to keep things as chronologically organized as I can, tell a clear, concise story, and hopefully if anybody is thinking about entering any of these industries, they take these videos and use these as a good training tool for potentially what they can expect. Now, times do change. I worked for TDCJ from 2013 to 2015. COVID is going to have everything different from what I'm going to talk about but I will guarantee there are going to be some similarities to what I went through in the industry as far as paperwork that has to be filled out, to what the units look like, how they're run, and experiences that the individual can expect. There are going to be certain differences. I didn't have to wear a mask back then. Social distancing wasn't a thing. We were just all crowded in with each other. So, with that said, look into this right here. We'll get into how that process got started, and future videos are going to entail a lot more into my experiences and with it. For starters, what is TDCJ? Texas Department of Criminal Justice is the state industry that manages incarcerated individuals in the state of Texas who have been tried, convicted, and sentenced to a certain time frame in a state prison because of the offense that the individual committed. Some don't know the difference between jail and prison. Jail is where an individual goes when they've initially been arrested, typically off the street. A drunk driver, a person publicly intoxicated, some individuals are fighting in the street, somebody gets pulled over for a traffic stop and they didn't appear in court to pay a ticket. Those are just some of the examples of an individual going to jail. They go see the judge imposes sentence upon them, and they wait that time out in jail, or they post bail, they pay a fine, a fee. These are typically called misdemeanors. Your more serious offenses are felonies. Felonies are those that range from murder, burglary, robbery, sexual assault type charges, drug trafficking, drug use, intoxication assault, intoxication manslaughter, just to name a few. These are all offenses that are related to Texas. Different states are going to have similar offenses. They may call them something differently. For one, intoxication manslaughter is where an individual is intoxicated, they're operating a motor vehicle, and they cause the death of a human being. Okay, in the state of Virginia, that may be something else. I don't know what it is. I don't work corrections in Virginia. I haven't researched it. But I know that there is a statute for said offense. So, what's the difference with that? These individuals that are in prison have committed this offense, have gone to jail. They had a court date where they had their trial. They went through with a jury, their defense attorney, the prosecutor, and this individual was found guilty of said charge and sentenced to X number of years in a state penitentiary. Throughout Texas, there were approximately 122 of these facilities holding male and female prisoners. The one that I worked at was in the city of Beaumont, and there are 3 facilities in that city. There's a maximum security facility, and there's 2 state jail facilities. The maximum security was the Stiles unit. The 2 state jails, Gist and LeBlanc. Texas has 7 different types of offenses, ranging from the bottom, Class C misdemeanor, B, and A. There's a 3rd-degree felony, 2nd-degree felony, and a 1st-degree felony. There's also a capital offense. That's typically an individual who is going to receive the death penalty or life imprisonment. Now, this is all subject to the court. These are just the terms that they're called. There's one that's in between misdemeanor and felony, and it's called a state jail offense. There are certain facilities that house these state jail offenses. They're not quite as bad to be classified as a 3rd degree and above felony, but they're a little bit more worse, egregious than the Class A misdemeanor. So they have their own facility for those individuals. It's typically a time that's not going to exceed I believe the time is 2 years. Statutes do change. And all the different felonies are listed as years that are imposed on the individual. The Styles unit was where I worked. This was your maximum security facility. This unit, you're going to hear prisons in Texas called by unit, penitentiary, or for a lot of the older individuals, older I mean the ones who have worked there for many, many years, 20 plus odd years, the well-respected, well-seasoned veterans, we'll call them farms, stemming from the time of work farms when offenders / inmates worked outside the units doing crop work, some type of landscaping. They were work farms. So, how did I get involved in this industry? Well, in 2012, I was a Coast Guard reservist that was on active duty. We'll cover that whole series in a whole nother set of videos. Those orders were coming to an end, and I was about to go back to being what's called a drilling reservist. That's one who, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, a lot of people have heard the slogan, you go into your unit, you do your duty, you get paid once a month, and it's a supplemental income. It is not a primary source of income. So I was going to be going back to a drilling status, which I wanted to. We'll cover that. And I was going to need new employment. Well, I took a little bit of time off, hung out for a little while, had a nest egg, used a little vacation time to myself. And the city of Beaumont was putting on a job fair. I went to the job fair. It had all the different booths that were set up, anything from radio broadcast to food delivery, waste management. The city of Beaumont was posting their jobs. And then there was a booth for TDCJ. I went over to it, and it was run by 3 corrections officers, a sergeant and 2 senior corrections officers. The way that I could tell they were senior, their uniforms were well used, very well broken in, and they just looked seasoned, like they had definitely put their time in the unit. They had all the promotional items, I guess you'd call them. The stress ball with the logo TDCJ on it, the little plastic water bottle, keychain, some notepads, no pens, but they had the notepads. Interesting to note, they didn't have any of the application forms. What they had, and I talked to the sergeant about this, was a sheet of paper that had all the different websites that you would go to apply to be corrections officer. When you apply for it, there are a couple of different forms that you have to print out and fill out. One is a blanket application form to the state of Texas, and this applies for any state of Texas job. State trooper, doctor, nurse, a teacher, anything that's going to get you state of Texas benefits or paycheck. This application has to be filled out. The other one was a blanket form directly related to TDCJ. And then the other one was a personal history statement. This was the one where you list your previous employment for up to 8 years, addresses that you've lived at for 8 years, your references, any type of special skills that you have, and your past drug use disclosure. You print off all those forms. Lucky I had computer and printer available to me. You print off all the forms, and they have to be filled out in ink. You can't type them. I can only guess that that's to see what your handwriting is like, because you're going to be doing a lot of handwriting as a corrections officer. Once all those were filled out, you would mail those off to the central office in Huntsville, Texas. And it took quite a few months for everything to come back. I didn't have anything on my background. I had no drug usage history. I can only think that because a lot of my experience was prior military, maybe they were checking through all that, or maybe they just had a lot of individuals that they were going through. But it took probably a good 5 or 6 months, long enough that I had to get a job to supplement income while I was waiting. I took a temporary job at a factory working as a material handler and operating forklifts. I absolutely loved that job. It just didn't pay very well, being that it was a temp job. Well, in April of 2013, I got the call from Human Resources at TDCJ, Huntsville, Alabama, that they had an academy opening date. I don't remember the exact date. I'm sorry. I don't even have the paperwork on it. I just know that it was in April. I know that for sure. Got a call that they had an opening at the academy. Here was the date to attend, and this is when I would need to report. I said, yes, I accepted. The day that you report to the academy, that's the day that your pay begins. So you could call it paid training. They mailed me a bunch of forms that I needed to take to the academy with me. Some of them had to do with insurance. Some had to do with sizing for uniforms. You could kind of front load a little bit of this information to help speed the process up once you got to the academy. So I got all that paperwork, and I know the report date was Monday morning. I had to be in Huntsville at the academy at 6 a.m. Beaumont to Huntsville is about almost an hour and a half, just about a 2-hour drive, depending on traffic, how you drive, construction, all that kind of stuff. So that Monday morning came. I had my paperwork ready to go. We were told to go business casual. In addition to business casual, we were told to bring physical training gear, shorts, t-shirt, running shoes. We were going to be doing what they call the PAT, the physical agility test. We were also told to bring clothes for at least a 2 to 3 day stay, depending on your commute and where you were going to be staying. The paperwork listed that quarters were going to be available, quarters meaning housing. So we were going to be housed for free. We were also supposed to be provided 3 meals a day. This was in the paperwork. So Monday morning came. I got up bright early. The sun hadn't even come up yet. Loaded up the vehicle, got my car, had all the forms, the paperwork and everything ready to go, loaded up, and headed off toward the academy. This will put us at a good stopping point for here. I hope that what you've seen so far through the content you've enjoyed. I hope I haven't been too long in the content for you to sit through. If you've enjoyed what you have seen so far, please comment down below. I always said if I ever started a YouTube video, I wasn't going to be the one that says click the like, the subscribe notifications, click the bell. However, I'm that individual now. That's how the videos get out to people. That's how people like yourself or anybody else who's viewing these videos, that's how they know that they're out here and what puts them on their feet. So it does serve a purpose. Now that I'm a content provider, I understand it. I get it now. So if you liked what you saw, comment about what you did like. If you didn't like it, comment about what you didn't like. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about when I got to the academy, my experiences there, and we'll go from there. Have a great rest of y'all's day.